So, I've been playing Dead by Daylight for a couple hundred hours, so not too long. But, still, within that time, I've had my fair share of annoying matches. You know, there's the typical saving sprint burst until you go up to them and then they run away. And then there's survivors just running in the same, just in one direction, and then dropping every pallet they come across without even trying to play the tile. They're just burning pallets, and nothing happens. And then, of course, all of the so-called bully squads that just sit around each other, trying to get saves, farm clips, whatever you want to call it. Just a lot of the stuff that you've already seen talked about by other content creators. But to me, it's at least a little bit telling that I've still seen a lot of those same things as a person that, doesn't have as many hours as most of those content creators. I really only started playing DBD when Springtrap got added, or at least a little bit before then. And I've still just seen all of these things. So I feel like that should kind of speak to the state of the game, I guess, and how a lot of players new or, I guess, in higher quote-unquote MMR status are using these same strategies and just experiencing these same things. Now, I would like to note that due to me barely playing Survivor really, and I only do it with friends, essentially, I'm probably a little bit biased. And you know what? That's okay in my opinion. I've seen a lot of videos already saying that, I guess, the state of playing Killer has been going down, with a lot of the decisions being made, I guess, being labeled as Survivor-sided, which I don't really know. I don't have enough experience playing the game, I don't think, to really give concrete, or at least full-blown opinions on some of the decisions, but I do feel like a lot of the time the Survivor role has been the main focus of improvement. And by improvement, I'm essentially referring to things like Fast Track, which, has gotten its fair share of criticisms, and for good reason in my opinion. That perk can go die in a ditch. But it just seems survivors, more than killers, have been given either perks or changes, or just things that generally make their lives easier, which makes killers' lives harder. And it's like that that forever changing battle of trying to balance them. And in the case of Fast Track, I do not think balance means that survivors should earn something for their teammates getting hooked, which is the killer's main way of pressuring, getting the game going. I don't think survivors should be rewarded for killers doing their job. That doesn't seem balanced. So I am here to complain on the internet about a game that's already been complained about dozens of times. Now, as you may guess, I do not have a script. I have my trusty good old sticky note of bullet points that I want to talk about. First up is the ever-classic, ever-looming, goddamn exhaustion perks. On paper, I like the idea of an exhaustion perk. You get a stronger ability, a stronger movement ability, at the cost of having a built-in cooldown that you can't, or aren't supposed to, use it again during the same chase. That's great. I like that. However, Vigil and Fixated completely remove that kind of thing. Okay, maybe not completely remove, but it certainly makes it a whole lot easier to just walk and then get rid of Exhausted 66% faster so you can use your Sprint Burst again in the same chase after using it to gain free distance, sit at a pallet, walk around it, drop it, maybe you get the stun, maybe not, either way, waste time, continue walking, maybe use some sprinting here and there, and before you know it, you can Sprint Burst again. Why would I want to chase that? Sprint Burst is easily the, go-to example of exhaustion perks being like this, because it is just mindless, essentially free distance, where new players use it because it's just that to them, and experienced players can use it to essentially outmaneuver basically any killer and get to a prime position for them, like an easier tile to play on. So I hate Sprint Burst because it just kind of promotes that playstyle of, oh, if I just press this button, I get away. But, you know, of course, if you use it wrong, you still stay where you are and end up just not being able to use it for a while. But I also hate another specific perk because it's, I guess, a second chance. There are other second chance perks that I, of course, have problems with, like DS, I guess if you count Deliverance. But I have not gone up against many Deliverance individuals in my games, probably because I'm still probably in the lower tier games. Oh, no, I am, because I'm not that great, but... So I don't think anyone in my matchmaking range would be a Deliverance gamer. But the one perk I absolutely despise, in Exhaustion and both Second Chance, is Dead Hard. I despise Dead Hard. And yes, I know, oh, just make him think you're swinging, bait Dead Hard. It's not that hard. You try it with some of these people. You try it. It is tough. Sometimes they just use it when I'm not even close to them, and I just see them duck forward and come back up. I'm like, oh, so they have Dead Hard. That's cool. But then sometimes, I don't even know. It's like I don't even see them do anything. I just swing and boop. Nope, that swing didn't count. I get free distance. Good luck next time. Gee, thanks. That's such a cool perk. I'm glad you brought that to the game. It's just times like that where I have to agree with all the times I've seen videos saying, oh, it's just perks versus players now. It's perks versus players. Yeah, it certainly feels like it sometimes. And that's me saying it, which you can see in my build that I'm playing with. Pain Res, Grim Embrace, two paired perks that have been complained about by survivors since their debut, essentially, probably. I don't know, I wasn't there at that time. But I mainly use them. Well, I guess one, because they're good. Like, all the other survivors are using Sprint Burst and stuff because they're good. You can make that argument, yeah. But also, without them, generators just get done. I get 2 hooks, and then all the generators are done, and then they leave. It just feels like without those perks, I don't really have a chance. And I hate that it feels like that. But anyway, I hate Dead Hard. Moving on. Windows of Opportunity. And I guess other crutch perks like that. It has gotten to the point where I can literally tell if a player has windows or not, because they will go to a pallet, drop it, run around the wall, and come back running into me to get to a window. That's just crazy. How do you have such bad game awareness that you are using a literal perk that tells you where to go in case of an emergency, and you just ignore all signs of me being there and just run into me because the yellow window said so? At that point, you're just not even playing the game. You're just doing what the game tells you. And then you're like, okay, yes sir, I'll go that way. I'll die trying. You're not playing the game. You're just following instructions. Yes, windows can be useful to learn tiles and whatnot. Learn where things can spawn. But most players don't use it that way. They just use it to freely get around without having to learn it themselves, which in some way can be framed as harming their teammates because they don't have another perk in that spot that would maybe help get generators done or help, I don't know, anything else. So then at that point, they're just becoming a detriment to themselves and their team. And then to add on top of that annoyance of just having to chase a player that is being told where to go by some unseen force, you just know that they have either Lithe or Finesse or some kind of Vault perk because, oh, I'll just go to yellow and look at that, I made distance. I'm doing so good right now. Sure, buddy. Sure you are. And then this goes in tandem with Dead Hard and DS and all that too, because Dead Hard is also like this, where it's like just supporting you, where if you can press the button at the right time, it's free. There, off you go, hit the ground running. And then DS, oh, if you just use it offensively and then they don't, I guess not as much DS, but you get the point. DS also kind of falls into the third category, bully perks, that I've written down. But also not really, I guess. I don't know, I just don't really like DS and how it's designed as a second chance. But bully perks are a bit broad. You know, you got the obvious ones, head on, Last Stand, kind of, which I got a game while recording for background footage where 3 people ended up having Last Stand. So I couldn't do much of anything as long as a teammate got downed within a radius of a window or a vault location or anything. And then you of course have flashlights and all that stuff, which aren't really perks, but it's part of that bully nature, which I've seen a little too often. It's not very fun. Hooks getting sabotaged right in front of you. It's just not the best time. I don't know, it just feels wrong to me that perks and abilities and stuff like this can just be harnessed in such a way where it just feels so genuinely unfun to play against. It's like a casual player, where oftentimes when I get a bully squad like this, that ends up just being my last game of the day. Like, it's just not fun. I don't get how people have fun doing it. I mean, I guess I do. It's that kind of, that same kind of fun that, I guess normal bullies do. Either that or, but it's just better online, I guess, because you don't have to do any other work. As long as you're somewhat capable at playing the game, and you have a full team of players, like in the same Discord call, and you all bring the same perks, or at least working similar perks, you can just make the killer's life hell. What a fun Friday afternoon. And I don't want to make this seem like I'm going, oh, poor me. Well, these people are cyberbullying me online. Oh no. No, it's just annoying. Like, most of the time, it's just annoying in the one game that it's happening in, and then I kind of forget about it or tell the story later. It's like kind of a, oh yeah, that was annoying, haha. Just the frequency of it. The frequency that I'm seeing this kind of behavior is also annoying. And then my last 2 points that I wrote down were teabagging and endgame chat. Now, writing down teabagging as one of the most annoying things that I find about survivors seems a little crybaby-ish, but it's also kind of funny when it happens where survivors end up teabagging you and then they die 10 seconds later, and then they still teabag you and then call you trash in the in-game chat. It's just, the entitlement is pretty crazy. I just feel like so many survivors, not so many, but just quite a few of the survivors that I go up against end up saying something snarky in the endgame chat, calling me bad or something like that. I had one time where someone straight up called me a dog, like D-O-G, because I ended up having to hold a 3-gen because they were blowing through things way too fast. Like, I don't want to group all survivors into the same category of annoyance, right? That's not very fair. But just some survivors, man, how do you play this game and have such an attitude and hold yourself so high just to not perform that good? I don't get it. The attitude of some survivors has just become so toxic, I guess, just so visceral. It just becomes kind of sad at some point. And I know, there are killers and stuff like that that also end up being toxic and whatnot. There's a chance that I've done something that could be kind of toxic, maybe. But just some survivors, man, going into people's, like on live streams, just going into people's chats and whatnot, going into their Discord servers, messaging them privately, threatening them, just talking shit. Like, do you really not have anything else better to do than that? Is that all you do? It's just crazy. It's just you're making fun of people, saying how sad their lives are and whatnot. Oh, you do this, you do that. You're not much better. If you do that stuff, you're not better at all. You're not better than that. If you spend your time after a game overtly trying to just disrupt someone else's day because you had a bad game or you thought they were doing something wrong, why do you think you're better than that person? You're being a problem that doesn't need to be there. You're not better than anyone. So, moral of the story, some survivors need to do something else with their time. While I might not, enjoy my time playing bully squads and whatnot, I'll eventually forget about them, and then they'll just be a part of the mass of them that I've played against in my head. Right? That won't really last for me. There are just some things that behavior needs to change to make playing killer, I guess, feel better, feel fairer, because the rate at which generators go at some games, it's just ridiculous. And then, of course, you know, those subtle cheaters out there, they don't make it any better. Because I have a game of Springtrap that I played, it's going to be in a video sooner or later. I had a game where the generators just flew. Like, they literally went one after another, like every 30 seconds. And I had 0 hooks. And the AC gates were powered. That, I'm fairly certain now, was like a cheater of some sort. But the fact that I can't be sure should say something. Because I'm fairly certain that was a cheater that was doing that. You know, trying to be all subtle about it, not just popping everything at once. But in the moment, I really thought it was perks. In the end game, I think there was some, you know, generator builds, but it mostly seemed like they had quote-unquote normal builds. So I just still genuinely don't really know what happened with that game. But if that was normal, if there were no cheats involved, there is no reason for a game to be over while I'm chasing someone the whole time, you know, getting a down or two, and ended up getting no hooks because people are hovering, saving, and then all of a sudden generators are going left and right, like with maybe a minute in between if you're lucky. That's not fair. So that really covers everything I wanted to talk about, everything I had written down. If I were to have some like very final thoughts, I'd say behavior needs to ask more, I guess, content creators and do more like genuine surveys and listen to genuine feedback. For example, I know that there are plenty of content creators that make more commentary stuff on DVD, and they're probably often looked over because of their lower than, I guess, top of the top view count and overall slightly negative tendencies. But that's just because, like they say in their own videos, that they want the game to be better. Especially for the killer side, because with all these changes and perks coming to survivors to make their lives easier, like I said before, it just makes it harder for the killer to do their job. And sometimes it still works fine, sometimes it still feels fine, but overall, I think they're just putting too much attention on the survivor side. But all this is just my opinion. I would be more than happy to hear about any of your guys' opinions, anyone watching this, whether you play killer or survivor. I'm curious, because I've seen a lot of the same opinions roaming around the internet like this, or a lot of people that play killer are feeling like they're just teetering more towards the survivors. So I want to know if that's generally mutual. I want to know if that's what everyone, or at least most people think. So yeah, leave your ideas and stuff in the comments. What other things do you think behavior should change? Stuff like that. And with that, I'm just gonna stop talking and show you the rest of this game, because this game sucked. A lot. That's an angle?! I don't fucking understand this shit, bro. Blood points while I can. Last stand. Last stand. Last stand. Head on.